10 most powerful African queens in history. African history isn't just about kings and warriors. It is also about powerful queens who shaped the continent. These women built empires, outsmarted enemies, and left legacies that put many kings to shame, proving a woman can rule just as well as any man, maybe even better. Welcome to NaijaNews TV. Today, we'll look into the lives of 10 extraordinary African queens who changed history. Their stories are full of wins, losses, and jaw-dropping achievements. Get ready to meet most powerful African queens in history. Trust us, you won't want to miss this. Queen Amina of Zaria. Our journey began in the 16th century in Kano State, Nigeria. Here, a young princess named Amina was born into the royal family of Zazzau. From an early age, Amina defied expectations. While other girls learned domestic skills, she honed her military skills, training alongside male soldiers. Her father, recognizing her exceptional abilities, allowed her to attend state meetings, a privilege typically reserved for men. But Amina's path to the throne could have been smoother. When her parents died and her brother became king, she had to prove her worth time and time again. Yet, even as a princess, she commanded respect, becoming a leading warrior in her brother's army. Amina finally ascended to the throne in 1576. After the passing of her brother, she faced the kingdom threatened by rival states and declining trade. But where others saw challenges, Amina saw an opportunity. She embarked on a series of military campaigns that would last for 3 decades. Leading from the front, often covered in armor, Amina expanded Zazzau borders further than any ruler before her. Her army, 20,000 strong, was a force to be reckoned with. Amina's power wasn't just in her military might. She was a visionary leader who understood the importance of commerce and infrastructure. Under her rule, trade flourished. She introduced metal armor to her army and built fortified walls around every town in her domain, many of which still stand today. Amina's reign has its own controversy. Legends speak of her taking a new lover in each conquered city, only to execute them the following day to prevent them from ever speaking of her intimate moments. Whether true or not, these stories speak to the mystery surrounding her. In the end, Amina's most significant victory was in breaking barriers. In a society favoring men, she proved that a woman could not only rule, but also succeed in traditionally male roles. Her 34-year reign brought unprecedented prosperity and power to Zazzau, earning her the title Amina, daughter of Nekatau, a woman as capable as man. Amina died in 1610, but her legacy lived on. Till this day, she remains a symbol of female empowerment and leadership in Nigeria and beyond. Queen Zinga Bande of Angola. As Amina's reign ended, another formidable queen was rising to power in what is now called Angola. This was Zinga Bande, a woman whose diplomatic and military skills would keep the Portuguese at bay for decades. Zinga's life was marked by struggle from the beginning. Born into the royal family of Dongo and Matamba, she watched as her homeland was ravaged by Portuguese slave traders. Her brother the king seemed powerless to stop them, but Zinga was far from powerless. In 1622, her brother sent her to negotiate with the Portuguese governor. What happened next became the stuff of legend. Arriving at the governor's palace, Zinga found only one chair for the governor. Rather than sit on the floor as expected, she commanded one of her servants to act as her chair, meeting the governor at eye level. This bold move set the tone for her reign. When Zinga became queen in 1626, she faced clearly overwhelming challenges. The Portuguese intruded on her territory, rival African kingdoms threatened her borders, and her people were divided. But Zinga was equal to the task. She formed strategic alliances, temporarily partnering with the Dutch to counter Portuguese aggression. Zinga led her troops into battle, proving to be a skilled military tactician. She resulted into guerrilla tactics when conventional warfare failed. When forced to flee her kingdom, she established a new base in the nearby kingdom of Matamba. There, she transformed a society where women were marginalized into one, where they held positions of power. Though, despite her best efforts, she could not completely drive out the Portuguese or end the slave trade. Yet, she never stopped fighting. In her 60s and 70s, she still personally led troops into battle. She refused to accept defeat. She was a master of reinvention, whether as a diplomat, a warrior queen, or a nation builder. Zinga's long life ended in 1663. At the age of 81, she died peacefully, having secured a peace treaty with the Portuguese that guaranteed her people's freedom. Her legacy lived on in the fierce resistance of the Angolan people to colonial rule. Hatshepsut of Egypt. We now journey back in time, the golden age of ancient Egypt. Here, we meet a queen who would become one of the most successful pharaohs in Egyptian history, Hatshepsut. Born a princess, Hatshepsut's life took an unexpected turn when she became queen through marriage to her half-brother, Thutmose II. But it was after his death that her true rise to power began. Initially regent for her young stepson, Hatshepsut soon took an unprecedented step. She declared herself pharaoh in a society where women could be regents but never rulers. This was nothing short of revolutionary. Hatshepsut faced enormous challenges. As a woman claiming a traditionally male role, she had to legitimize her rule. Her solution was brilliant and audacious. In official depictions, Hatshepsut had portrayed herself as a male pharaoh, complete with a false birth. She claimed divine right to rule, spreading propaganda that the god Amarus himself had fathered her. It was a masterclass in political maneuvering. Hatshepsut's reign was marked by great achievements. She launched building projects, including the magnificent temple Deir el-Bahir. She revived the Egyptian economy, reopening old trade routes and launching a famous expedition to the land of Punt. But perhaps her greatest triumph was in giving Egypt an extended period of peace and prosperity. Under her rule, Egypt flourished, free from the warfare that often marked the reigns of male pharaohs. Yet, Hatshepsut's story is also one of eventual failure, or at least an attempt to erase her legacy. After her death, her stepson, Thutmose III, attempted to wipe her name from history, destroying her monuments and removing her name from king lists. But Hatshepsut's impact was too great to be erased. Her innovations in architecture and economic policies had lasting effect. What made her truly powerful was her ability to challenge and change the very foundations of Egyptian kingship. Hatshepsut's legacy lies in her outstanding achievements and the precedent she established. She demonstrated that a woman could effectively rule over Egypt, setting the stage for future female pharaohs such as Cleopatra. Hatshepsut's death around 1458 BCE remains shrouded in mystery, but her legacy, rediscovered by modern archaeologists, continues to inspire. Queen Amarus of Kush. Coming to the modern-day Sudan, Amarus, the one-eyed Kandake or queen, dared to challenge the might of the Roman Empire. Amarus' life was characterized by conflict. When she came to power around 40 BCE, her kingdom was prosperous but threatened. To the north, the Romans had just conquered Egypt and were eyeing Kushite lands. Rather than wait for an invasion, Amarus chose to strike first. In a bold move that caught the Romans off guard, she led an army of 30,000 warriors into the Roman-controlled Egypt. The initial campaign was a stunning success. Amarus' forces captured the Roman city of Syene, Elephantine, and Philae. They looted these cities and enslaved their inhabitants, even toppling statues of the Roman Emperor Augustus. But the Romans soon retaliated. In the brutal fighting that followed, Amarus lost an eye, earning her the nickname the One-Eyed Queen. The Romans pushed into Kushite territory, destroying the capital city of Napata. Yet, even in the face of these setbacks, back, Amarus refused to surrender. She regrouped her forces and launched a guerrilla campaign against the Romans. Her hit-and-run tactics wore down the Roman army, inflicting heavy casualties. After years of bitter conflict, both sides were exhausted. In an achievement of diplomacy, Amarus negotiated a peace treaty with Augustus himself. The terms were remarkably favorable to Kush. They would remain independent and even be exempted for paying tribute to Rome. Amarus' most remarkable achievement was preserving her kingdom's independence in the face of Roman expansion. While other African kingdoms fell to Rome, Kush remained free. Her successful resistance became legendary, with the Romans describing her as a warrior queen because of her exceptional bravery. The one-eyed queen's death around 10 BCE didn't end her influence. A successful defense of Kush ensured that the kingdom would remain independent for centuries. Even today, she is remembered in Sudan as a national hero, a symbol of resistance against foreign domination. Yashantiwa of the Ashanti. Yashantiwa was born in 1840. She was the queen mother who led the last major war against British colonialism in West Africa. This journey takes us to the late 19th century to the Ashanti Empire in Ghana. As the queen mother of Ejisu, Yashantiwa was the custodian of the golden stool, the sacred symbol of the Ashanti nation, but her role would soon extend far beyond ceremonial duties. The challenge that defined Yashantiwa's life came in 1896 when the British exiled the Ashanti king, Prempeh I, and demanded the golden stool. This was an unthinkable provocation to the Ashanti. The stool was believed to hold the nation's soul. In a gathering of chiefs, where the men seemed ready to give in to the British demands, Yashantiwa rose to speak. Her words would go down in history. If you, the men of Ashanti, will not go forward, then we will. We the women will. I shall call upon my fellow women. We will fight the white men. We will fight till the last of us falls on the battlefields. At the age of 60, Yashantiwa became the leader of the Ashanti rebellion against British rule. For several months, in 1900, she led an army that laid siege to the British fort in Kumasi, where the British governor and his staff were based. She mobilized the entire Ashanti nation, using traditional spiritual beliefs to inspire her warriors. Her forces utilized guerrilla tactics, ambushing British supply convoys and cutting off their lines of communication. The rebellion, known as the War of the Golden Stool, was Yashantiwa's moment of success. Her forces held off the British for months, who were forced to bring in thousands of reinforcements and heavy artillery. However, the power of the British Empire eventually proved too much. In 1901, Yashantiwa was captured and sent into exile in Seychelles, where she died 20 years later. The Ashanti Confederacy became part of the British Gold Coast colony. Yet, even in defeat, Yashantiwa achieved something remarkable. Her bravery and leadership inspired people to make a last stand for her independence. She became a symbol of national pride, an embodiment of the spirit of resistance against colonial rule. Yashantiwa's legacy lived on long after her death. When Ghana gained independence in 1957, it drew inspiration from her resistance. Today, she is honored as a national hero, with schools, streets, and a museum bearing her name. Cleopatra VII of Egypt. A list of powerful African queens would only be complete if Cleopatra VII, the last active ruler of Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, were mentioned. Her life was full of ambition, love, and tragedy. Born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, Cleopatra's life was surrounded by power. At 18, she became co-ruler with her younger brother, but was soon forced into exile by his advisors. Cleopatra's fall first great win came when she smuggled herself back into the royal palace, wrapped in a carpet, to meet Julius Caesar. Her wit and charm won Caesar's support, and with his help, she regained her throne. But Cleopatra's challenges were far from over. In a world dominated by men, she had to constantly prove her right to rule. She did this through political manipulation and by developing an image of divine queenship, associating herself with the goddess Isis. Cleopatra was able to preserve Egypt's independence in a time of Roman expansion. She kept Egypt free from direct Roman control through alliances with Caesar and later with Mark Antony. What made Cleopatra really stand out was her intellect and charisma. Fluent in 9 languages, she was a skilled diplomat and a patron of the arts and sciences. She could command a fleet, lead an army, and hold her own in philosophical debates. Her alliance with Mark Antony led to war with Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus. Despite her best efforts, she couldn't prevent Egypt's defeat and annexation by Rome. Cleopatra died in 30 BCE, reportedly by suicide. With her dead, the last pharaonic dynasty of Egypt, and Egypt became a Roman province. Meanwhile, even in death, Cleopatra's glory lived on. Her life became the story of legend, inspiring countless works of art, literature, and drama over the centuries. She remains one of the most famous women in history. Queen Moremi Ajasoro of Ile-Ife. Our next queen takes us to the Yoruba land, to the sacred city of Ile-Ife. Here, we meet Queen Moremi Ajasoro, a woman whose courage and sacrifice saved her people from destruction. As the wife of Oromiyan, the ruler of Ile-Ife, she enjoyed a high-status position, but her comfortable life was shattered when her people faced a death threat. The challenge that defined Moremi's life came from repeated raids by a neighboring group known as the Ugbo. These fearsome warriors, whom the people of Ile-Ife believed to be spirits due to their strange appearance, would storm the city, capturing people to be sold into slavery. Meanwhile, Moremi allowed herself to be captured by the Ugbo, gambling that her beauty would catch the eye of their ruler. Her planned worked. She became a favorite of the Igbo king, gaining his trust and access to their secrets. There, she studied the Ugbo's battle strategies and discovered the secrets behind their fearsome appearance. They covered themselves in a raffia palms and egungun costumes. After many months, Moremi managed to escape back to Ile-Ife. Armed with the knowledge she had gained, she advised her people on how to defeat the Ugbo. In the next raid, the people of Ile-Ife were prepared. They set fire to the Ugbo's raffia coverings, revealing them as mere mortars and routing their forces. Upon her return, she had to fulfill a vow to the river deity, Eshimiri, who had aided her escape. She had promised to sacrifice the most precious thing in her life if she succeeded in her mission. To the shock of all, Moremi realized that the most precious thing in her life was her only son, Oluorogbo. In an unfortunate act of sacrifice, she gave up her son to fulfill her vow. Today, Moremi is revered as a heroine among the Yoruba people. Statues of her stand in Ile-Ife and beyond, reminding people of the queen who gave everything to save our nation. Queen Nandi of Zulu. Next is Queen Nandi of Zulu, the mother of the great Zulu king Shaka, whose life story rivals that of her famous son. As a young woman, she caught the eyes of Zagan Kona, chief of a small Zulu clan. Their brief connection resulted in pregnancy, but when Nandi informed Zagan Kona, he denied responsibility. Nandi faced shame and ridicule. When her son was born, she named him Shaka in defiance of their mockery. For years, Nandi and Shaka lived as outcasts, moving from place to place. But Nandi's unwavering love and fierce protection of her son shaped him into the man he would become. become. She instilled in him a sense of pride and purpose that would one day transform the Zulu nation. Nandi's most significant challenge came when Kona finally acknowledged Shaka and brought them to his household. Here, Nandi and Shaka faced constant ridicule and mistreatment from the chief's other wives and their children. She fiercely defended Shaka, encouraging his growth and ambition. When they were eventually banished again, Nandi's determination saw them through years of hardship. Then, all things changed when Shaka rose to become the leader of the Zulu nation. As the queen's mother, she became one of his most trusted advisors. Her influence helped shape many of Shaka's policies and military strategies. Through Shaka, Nandi's impact on history was immense. The Zulu kingdom he built became one of the most powerful in southern Africa. Nandi's glory was reflected in the reference Shaka showed her. He elevated the status of women in Zulu society, particularly that of the Queen Mother. When she spoke, even the great Shaka listened. However, she was unable to curb some of Shaka's more violent tendencies, which led to more bloodshed as he built his empire. And in her final years, she watched with sorrow as her son's rule became increasingly tyrannical. Nandi's death in 1827 was a critical moment in Zulu history. Shaka's grief was so profound that it forced the kingdom into a period of intense mourning, ordering that no crops be planted for a year and that any woman found pregnant be executed along with her husband. Queen Nefertiti of Egypt. Lastly, Queen Nefertiti of Egypt is one of the most iconic queens in history. Nefertiti's name means the beautiful one has come. As the great royal wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, she played a crucial role in one of the most dramatic periods of Egyptian history. Akhenaten abandoned Egypt's traditional belief in worshipping many gods to worship a single god, the Aten. This radical change threatened the established order and faced resistance from powerful priestly classes. She became a symbol of the Aten cult, often depicted worshipping the sun disk alongside her husband. Her influence was so significant that she was shown in poses usually reserved for pharaohs, suggesting she may have ruled as Akhenaten's co-regent. Nefertiti was a living goddess, revered as the incarnation of divine femininity. Meanwhile, despite the upset caused by the religious reforms, she helped keep the royal court functioning and the country united. However, the Aten cult did not survive long. After Akhenaten's death, the old gods were restored and much of the Amina period's artwork were destroyed. The end of Nefertiti's life is shrouded in mystery. She disappeared from the historical record around the 12th year of Akhenaten's reign. Some historians believe she ruled Egypt herself after her husband's death, possibly under the name of Neferu Aten. Meanwhile, despite the eventual failure of the Aten cult, Nefertiti's glory lived on. A famous sculpture discovered in 1912 has made her face one of the most recognizable in the world. She remains a symbol of ancient Egyptian beauty and power. For more videos like this, visit NaijaNews TV and follow us on our social media handles. Thank you for watching.